right, it's time for another episode of the PEBAheads. It's episode 3 of season 2, and on today's episode, we're going to recap the PEBA amateur draft, highlight a major suspension in the PEBA world out of Bakersfield, do some stats time with our Statsman, and conclude the show with a rookie ball preview. So without further ado, how's it going, guys?
Going good.
Going fantastic.
Got the drink. Mike,
I've got a drink
show the
this
pour.
time.
Show the pour.
And hey, I've got a camera. Look at me. Woo!
Yeah. Not holding the
Full
phone.
screen, none of this phone
Super
garbage.
fancy.
We finally upgraded.
I feel special. I stopped being a
It's
cheap
all the
man.
commercials we've been putting in.
Yeah,
The
it's
sponsorships.
finally
Well, that
afford that like
sponsorship
$20
dollars.
camera.
Man,
Yeah.
we can afford that $20 camera. Oh,
No, it was a nice weekend of drafting. Hopefully, you all were able to spend some time away from the draft on Sunday. But that's what's nice about having auto picks and lists and all that other fun stuff. So I know I took advantage of the list picks, and we're gonna get into some draft strategy topics and kind of recap some of our thoughts on the draft here early on. But I know one of the early topics we wanted to talk about, we'll just kind of kick it off. Number one, we've got 4 of us here, 4 different opinions. Who would you have taken with the number 1 overall pick? And I'll before we get into that, I'll say that just early on, my early analysis of the draft pool was that it was pretty wide open. There wasn't a clear-cut number 1 guy. There might be certain traits or things that each one of us can kind of highlight on why we like different players, but I think it's an interesting topic to touch on multiple players rather than see maybe out of the 4 of us there is a clear-cut number 1, but I have a feeling it's not going to be the case. So Lenny, do you want
you always
jump
pick
in
me
with your
first. How do you do that? You always pick me first. I knew it was coming. It's going to look like I'm cheating. But I'm on him, and I got him at 7. For me, he was the clear cut. Scout had him that way when when he made it to 7. This was the most hands-off draft I ever had. I had to work that day. So I made 1 pick because, like I told you guys, I worked really hard at being this bad to get into the top 10. And I wanted to make that pick before I went to work. And I actually have something to say after that about auto picking. But when he made it to 7, I have never hit draft player so fast in my life. But I'll let that kind of go for a minute. And we'll talk about it maybe as a group, my overall kind of thought about the draft. The unique thing, and what I've kind of talked about on the episode that I first did, and then since we've kind of joined forces here, is that for me, I had been talking about all I needed was starting pitching. I just needed starting pitching, needed it so bad. And we were built on that. It's what works the best for us. And auto draft did everything I would have done. First 4 picks, starting pitching. I maybe would have tried to dig a little bit deeper, but I don't know it was available then. I never do lists because I never think my list will be long enough and it'll run out or be inaccurate to what I need. But the draft, 95% of it was auto pick, and it did a pretty good job. So made me feel better about where I think my holes are on my team. If the AI, which I know is smarter than I am, did what I would have wanted it to do. But yeah, Amano is the short answer to the short answer to a short question that I made a long answer to.
what stood out most about him that kind of set him apart from some of the other?
He is ready to go. See, I'm hoping he's ready to go sooner. I made a joke earlier in our side thread that and why I wanted to talk about rookie ball is because I get all these great prospects that are really good in rookie ball, and my coaches just destroy them. And so I was like, if we can bypass my coaches and get him up to PEBA as quick as possible, he might actually be good. Anytime my coaches even talk to my players, look at them funny. They drop at least 4 stats or a star or 2, depending on what you go on. But yeah, he's 21. I always like college players better than high schoolers. High schoolers, you take them when they're super good, but I kind of want to get some ready to go now. Young guys. Everybody I've taken that has worked their way through my system. As soon as they hit the majors, maybe they have a good year. Romano was one, Yachiri was one, and they just fall apart. So it was like, let's get him up there and get him throwing the ball as soon as he can, because I'll probably drop him in AA right off the bat. So that's what he was for me.
No, that's good. Now, Scott, if you were, with Reno having the number one overall pick, what player would you have taken this year?
So I would say that I found this draft to be interesting and somewhat unlike any other draft that I've been a part of with PEBA, in that there were a large number of players that seemed to have a very high floor for me, where I looked at like 15 different players and said, well, these guys all look like first round draft picks to me. Like they're clearly, good potential, but their actual ratings were half or greater than their potential in a lot of these cases, which definitely is a positive sign for me for, quick development, especially when they're a high schooler. When I see a high schooler with a 10 contact potential, and they're already at a 5 or a 6 in actual, or an 8 power rating potential, and they're already a 4 or a 5 in actual, and they're 18 years old, I'm like, wow. I mean, it really moves them up on my internal list. I will say that my scout had starting pitcher Amano that Bakersfield picked as the number one pick. My scout had Harris Lynch, right fielder, went to Arlington as the number 2, but I was waffling between Joe Rudder, another right fielder, and Amano. So Rudder went 3rd overall and Amano went 7th overall. Those were the two guys I was kicking around. Like, if I had the number 1 pick, which one of those would I take? I probably would have sided with Amano, even though I'm a sucker for a high contact hitter. And, starting pitching can really, put you a strong leg up, as Reno knows right now, with our ace. If we didn't have him, or if he goes down for the season, our chances drop, of competing for a playoff spot drop considerably. I just love the everyday play style of a position player. And I just love high contact guys who have good ratings in the rest of the areas. So I was leaning towards Joe Rudder, but I probably would have defaulted to the scout pick in the end and picked Amano.
So Michael, New Jersey, just imagine a scenario where you actually have the number one pick and your team has gotten to that point where you need to pick someone. Who are you taking in this draft?
I mean, I can go all fire sale. We can go there. Why not? I can try to get there again. I've done it before.
Who would have been your 3rd round pick?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be extremely boring. I'll go with 2 guys because I don't want to just repeat the same thing everybody has already said, since we kind of talked about this before. Yeah, I would have gone Yori. So Yoshinobu Amano. I'm a sucker for lefties. I think Lenny picked up a real steal at the 7th overall pick. I love Amano. I would have picked him all day. And the other thing is that he's one of those guys that, and I know we'll probably talk about this, but he looked good in version 24. He looked good in version 25. So it's been consistent kind of between the two. I would have been excited with him. Very happy to take him overall. I think a lot of the other picks that have happened, on the high end, there was a lot of parity between kind of version 24, version 25. I don't know if everyone was paying attention to that. Probably not. Like for instance, I know Vale, that was more for story reasons. He created a player, all of that. Looks a lot worse in version 25 versus version 24. He looks a little bit better. So for me, Amano would have been from a pitching side. From a hitting side, I actually would have kind of done the reverse, where I would have taken a guy who probably came off as weaker in version 24. It actually looks a little bit better in version 25. And that's center fielder Corey Smith, the hillbilly. He's not exactly the perfect center fielder, but he's got a little bit more flexibility in the outfield. Obviously, you can add some more range to there if you want to go that way. His version 25 stats or projections are looking a lot nicer. To me, he kind of projects, or I'd hope that he'd kind of look a little bit like one of my old Madison players that's on Okinawa now. And I am trying to quickly get there because I forget his name, but Javier Aguilar. I'm thinking of that guy who's just got contact, got gap, and's got speed. I know Aguilar plays first base for Okinawa, and that's what he played for Madison at the time. But just this guy who's consistently going to potentially hit high 200s, low 300s, steal a bunch of bags, and just be that type of player. And he's got some flexibility. I probably would work on some defense for him, try to improve that center field, or I might just give up on it. And depends kind of where he is in his growth and when I can get him up into the majors. But Corey Smith would have been a guy that I probably would have taken a chance on, and not a lot of people would have agreed with. But I liked him as an option as well.
I will say, Mike, Dad, there were a lot of players that I had pretty high on my list that went pretty low in the first round. So, your guy was, a guy I was taking a good, hard, long look at, and if he would have been there at 26, I think I would have taken him. He just, I liked a lot about him. There were a number of them that might not, my scout didn't have him in the top 7, 8, but I did. I had him in my top 7, 8, where I'm like, ooh, this guy happens to fall. And a lot of people did. A number of good quality players that I was taking a long look at and saying, there's no way they're going to make it to me. While they didn't make it to me, they dropped pretty far, a lot farther than I thought they would have. A lot of drafts, or at least sometimes you see the draft where you just look at your scout list and they just tick off almost in order of what your scout placed them, or maybe one or two different. This draft, for some reason, I don't know if it's because my scout is terrible or our scouts are so much different or people are just going their own way. It was a lot different than what I thought it would have been. If you made me do a mock draft, I don't think I could come up with this one with a million monkeys typing on a million keyboards, get the order that we had. It was quite unusual.
I think that's the line of the night right there.
Yeah.
That is.
Beat that, Lenny.
Also, I don't, if I do, it means I've fallen out of my chair about something. So
I will say another thing I want to say. So Elias Vale, a named player, right? The Evas picked a guy named Vale.
They created him, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't look to see, but I'm guessing, there was a name change, I assume. That's what it was most likely contribution points used, right? To change the name of the
package to customize the player. I don't think you can do the stats if I remember correctly.
Right. No, I did it once, but I think you can change the name of a player that you spot in high school or college. I can't remember the specifics. Number 2 overall, Henry Dolman, another player just happens to be named after the GM. So, and then the other one that caught my eye is Harold Belafonte. I mean, that's Harry Belafonte's actual name is Harold Belafonte. Is that a coincidence or is that another named player? I didn't look in the CP to find out before. I probably should have, but it's possible that 3 of the top 5 picks were named players.
Well, and the Golden Voice GM,
right,
picking Harry Belafonte. Yeah.
So I saw those 3 names and said, I think we might have 3 named players influencing their picks. Now, the question is if they didn't name those players, and again, I'm assuming Harold Belafonte wasn't an accident, or I know that the algorithm has got some names in there. They threw some, there was something on the OOTP forum where you could throw some names in. So it's possible that that's just an algorithm name, but at least the top 2, the question is, do they pick someone different if the names are different?
Yeah. When you create your own player, you always pick them one.
I don't know, because I mean, one of the players you mentioned would be probably the guy I would have taken number 1, and that
Dolman.
Dolman.
Yeah.
because
So you thought, I thought Dolman was a great pitcher. You think he impresses you more than Amano? Because I would have edged Amano.
so on the pitching side, I think Amano has the edge.
Dude hits
But
the
I think when you
Oh, the
factor in the
double
hitting
player.
side,
Yeah.
then if you add, it's all going to be, for me, it's all going to be come down to if you add the third pitch and he gets a quality third pitch. Because right now, my scout is showing the fastball at a 7 potential, the sinker at an 8, the changeup at a 5. So it's the 5's not terrible, but it's not great. So it's like it's a big gamble because your range of outcomes on that third pitch being good are based off of, I believe, the sinker number potential being 8. So
Yeah.
you're not getting the full range of 10. So you're probably having a higher likelihood of, if you do add another pitch, that it's going to be, you got to get really lucky on that distribution for winter ball. But
he is the guy who hits though, right? I'm not making
yeah,
jokes.
he
Yeah,
mashed, like he
yeah.
could mash potentially.
Where do you think he would hit fully developed? You know, he could be an ace, right? Easily. But where do you think he would hit in a lineup fully developed?
From what my scout is saying, it's showing it a 9 contact, a 9 power, and a 6 eye. So you
Well,
could potentially DH him or first base him and have him basically either, if he isn't a great starting pitcher but good enough, you could have him DH or first base every day. And then when he does start, have it kind of a limited amount of pitches,
Like
and
an
then
open.
remain in the game as use the Otani rule essentially, and remain in the game as a DH the rest of the way. But I don't know. I haven't really, it's really intriguing, but when I've tried to get players like this, it normally turns out one way or the other. They don't develop both. It's
That
very
was
rare
the
to get it both.
That
I
was the
have
big thing I
one-
was going to throw in.
Yeah,
Because, I
I
mean,
have
look
one-
at Norishigo Ito from Gloucester. I mean, they pulled the same thing. He had high hitting initially as a rookie. His hitting has dropped off significantly. He's looking more amateur now, and pitching is really where his focus is at. While it's, big shiny package, you get all excited. To me, I don't think OOTP is really built to properly handle those
Yeah.
types of scenarios and those types of situations to actually make it function properly. I could be wrong. I just haven't
Well, in
seen it work
particular,
out.
in an online league, when a week disappears,
Oh, yeah.
at least I don't seem to have, like, in a solo league, I could be handling that day by day. But when a whole week disappears, anything goes wrong, it could
Yeah.
flip it.
So a player like that would probably require a lot more attention
Yeah.
by GM while they're going through the minors, right?
A lot of
Yeah.
strategy
Yeah.
changing and
Locking them
tweaking.
in for things.
I think the way you would have to do it would be, there's a setting in the player strategy where you can have them DH while they start. So then you have that set. So every fifth, and regardless if they're going to be a reliever eventually or a starter, I think if you're going to try to maximize their development, you would set, if it was going to be a reliever guy, you would just have them start the game, but set a very low pitch count, and then just have them remain in the game as DH. But yeah, you have to, I think the problem a lot of people do is they don't get when it's a guy like that, they're not getting their hitter enough at bats. So they're hitting lags behind, and then you're kind of in that situation. Well, I got to get them innings, but I'm not. So you definitely have to make sure your player strategy is set in a way where I think you have to do it every fifth day. I think that I've seen other people try to use people as relievers, and I think that messes things up because the game doesn't, if you're starting in the field that day, the game doesn't bring you in as a reliever. Like there's no, okay, you're coming in off the fifth, go to the bullpen now and warm up, and then come in as a reliever. Like it just doesn't happen.
Is that even
I think-
possible today? Like, because I know we have the big name Otani, obviously, for starting pitching and DHing. Do we have any scenarios where there's a relief pitcher who is DHing all day and then comes in as a relief pitcher? I don't.
In the
Like,
major,
how would that even
or in
function today? Like
you
in real
could
life.
do it, but I think you
Oh,
would then lose the DH spot
Hmm.
by the technical rule.
technical. Yeah, it turns into a
But
pitcher.
because of the starter, they have the Otani exception where if he starts as a starter, he can slot and is DHing at the start of the game. Then when you come out as a pitcher, you can just remain as the DH. But I don't think it like goes the opposite way.
Yeah, it works in reverse. You can
Yeah.
bat and then slot into pitching.
Yeah.
What about another scenario? So like Dolman is the first one that I recall in this league that was just so good at both in potential, right?
Yeah.
But I've seen a number of players that were above average relief pitchers and average hitters, not bad. So can those people in our league can you set up a scenario where you've got them as a pinch hitter on a regular basis because you know they're coming in the next inning, you know? Can you
Technically you could, but I think the game mechanic doesn't like grasp it. Like there'd be times where yes, I'll get rid of my DH slot and have this guy hit and remain in the game or whatever for the ninth inning or eighth inning.
in a solo league, but
Yeah.
with us,
Yeah,
like,
and with us,
Lenny
It doesn't
said,
do it. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think you can in the majors. It does flip the other way. Like when Anthony Rizzo pitches, when they're just getting blown out,
Yeah.
kind of thing. You can move over, but it's weird.
Yeah,
But
I don't know that I've seen it much in our league,
Yeah.
but I think I'm going to go digging into some stats to see because again, I've seen more.
foreshadowing.
I've seen more than one pitcher that wasn't great at hitting, but okay, and might be beneficial to use as a pinch hitter if you could then parlay that into a strategy for your lineup, right?
Yeah.
The guy in rookie ball that does both. I don't use him as both, but also teasing rookie ball. Nice.
So were there any teams drafts that stood out to you guys that like a team that you looked at their haul that they got that you thought, okay, that stood out as above and beyond just kind of the average team. I can start just to kind of get this going and see if it triggers any.
You clearly have it set up. There's a couple I thought of.
You've clearly thought this through.
Yeah, you
Sean.
have it teed up for yourself, so go ahead.
Well, I thought Neo Tokyo had a good haul.
No.
Like I thought that their first pick with Rudder was one that, he could have been a number one overall pick. Then you start kind of going line by line of, some of the other guys that they got. And it seemed like they added a lot of hitters. And that was something that it looked like they needed within their organization. They've already got some solid pitching prospects that have already reached the PEBA level. So that someone like Rudder almost probably can come in and if they wanted to, could start right now. They probably won't. But they also got a third baseman, Jesus Martinez, in the second round. It looks pretty good. I thought Derek Doherty was one that kind of fell to them in the third round that could have been a much higher pick. There's also Pedro Baranya was another one that my scout liked a lot. So their first four picks in the first four picks in the draft were pretty solid. And it looks like they got a starting pitcher, Juan Contreras. Looks like a decent guy there too, and with their fourth round pick. But I don't know. That team stood out, and then also Okinawa had massive fire sale in the off season, and then even at the trade deadline last year, added a bunch of picks, and just the breadth and depth of the picks that they made, it looked like they got a solid return on their picks. So
there are two guys that went in the bottom half of the first round that I kept inching up towards the top of my list as the draft started to progress. And that's the Kalamazoo Badgers picked second baseman Jun Sugiyama. And he was a very interesting player for me. I kept looking at him going, interesting. And then Tempe, you know, who's I think leading the division right now.
Yeah.
They picked catcher Juan Hernandez, and the more I looked at him on draft day, I had him. I think my scout had him 12, something like that, 13. You know, not bad. But the more I looked at him, he just kept those two guys kept moving up. They kept inching up in my draft list as the draft started going 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, oh, maybe, and then they get selected, and it struck out. It stuck out to me that those are two players that while they didn't go in the top 10, they might have gone in the top 10 if I was in the top 10 picking.
Tempe was who I was going to say. His first 4 picks were sick, and it just makes me sick.
You're such a pessimist. Feel good for people.
I am fulfilling the character that I was assigned. I am balancing out everybody's yin and yang. If I'm not negative, who do we have?
Well, Juan Hernandez was my pick for like, I think the best value pick of the first round was Juan Hernandez for Tempe. Like having him fall all the way to 20, and he's going to be a pretty good defensive catcher, and then one that looks to have some pop too. So when you look at Tempe's roster right now, they've got the other pieces, and then you add that to it. That's a scary thought. So I really like that pick, and I like their other picks too. So
Yeah.
Michael, did you have any that stood out?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I definitely Brian's doing a good job over there in Tempe. So your guy Scott, still very amazing. Just that guy. I mean, to see a reliever go that straight into the big leagues, be that productive, great pickup. As far as like, I don't know, like who excelled, who didn't excel, everything you guys have been saying, I've completely agreed with. Yuma, I could say, you know, at least Abe, he looked still pretty decent. And I kind of go back to the 25 versus 24. Abe was still, you know, top 15, top 20. Doesn't look too terrible. Yeah, not the greatest defensively. Could definitely be more of a DH, but you can spend some CP there if you really wanted to.
So Sean brought up an interesting point to me, guys. So Mike, since I interrupted you, what kind of qualms do you have about picking a good hitter, but bad defense, like an almost obvious DH in the early first round? Do you value defense enough to say
Oh,
that
yeah.
I'm gonna, because if the guy can hit well enough, I'm okay with picking him, but he needs to hit really, really well.
For me to have hitting absolutely cancel out having zero defense whatsoever, it's got to be like he's got to be tens across the board, which is completely unrealistic. He's got to be like a Van Wandel or something. I'm always going to put value in defense. I'm always going to put value in a guy who's a little bit more flexible, who has some utility. I can shift him around a little bit. I've definitely kept guys around on my roster longer than they probably needed to or deserved to, because they had that flexibility and they had that little bit of, I can shift him here if I get an injury, or I can shift this guy around there. That's definitely important. It's definitely going to save you runs in the game. Especially like my focus is mostly ground balls. So I need my defense to be good. Maybe somebody else who's built their park around, you know, fly balls or something else where they're not so dependent on ground balls and their pitchers are different and everything, and their whole setup is different. They're going to be more accepting, like probably Greg or whoever's running West Virginia at this point. His park is more built for fly balls, more built for not really caring about hitting the home runs, but the park is just huge. So a batter and defense maybe doesn't matter as much. I know he's consistently had terrible defensive men at first base or catcher or whatever, just best bat, and that's what works for him. I know historically OTP probably leaned that way a little bit more as well. I'm always going to put defense first. Well,
In all spots,
I want that 5-star guy. We'll put it that way. I want that guy who does it all.
So like I find that it's really hard for me to get a center fielder who can hit halfway decent, because my current center fielder might be the best defensive center fielder right now in the game, or definitely top 3 in the game. but he can't, sometimes he just can't hit his way out of a paper bag. But the drop off is so significant if I try to get somebody else that can hit better, right? Shortstop, I seem to do better at, but it's probably just because I am such a laser focused on shortstop defense. I've picked so many high defense shortstops that didn't pan out because it's a shotgun approach for me.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other, like I got Paul Oglethorpe, right, in my DH spot right now. And, you know, yeah, I paid, a little bit of money for him in free agency, twice. But, he's just been rock solid for me. And if he becomes, I got him on a 2-year deal, and next year I think is an option. If he walks next year, I've already got a plan for my DH. So I get it that DH is much easier to fill through free agency than any of these other spots. Surely easier to fill than a shortstop who can hit fairly well and defend really well. Center fielder, same thing. Catcher, same thing. I mean, there's spots that are really premium, but like a left fielder who can field well versus a guy who's a better hitter but not great at defense, you choose the left fielder over that?
I don't know about a left fielder. That's the thing. Like, then we
Am I
start
pushing the
getting,
extremes here?
yeah, it starts getting to like, okay, so what position are we talking? Because left field, I mean, you could probably find someone pretty easily to play left or right. Am I
First
going to
base.
take the premium bats at
How
that
about first
point?
base?
First base, I'm going to take the bat because first base, I mean, you can throw
So-
a blind pig in
Here's
there,
the
and it's
tricky one.
gonna just
Third
be
So
base.
does
perfectly
it
fine.
start at third, right? Third, second.
Yeah.
Obviously, shortstop, center field, catcher, right?
Yeah.
We all admit those are premium defensive
Yeah.
spots, right? So after that, we go third and second, and then
Third, second, first has got to be like last on that list.
okay.
I had
I
a center
just-
fielder.
I
Alan
recently
Davis.
had this discussion with another member of the league, and they kept telling me, "Oh, first base DH is so easy to fill." And my comment back to them was, then why do we have so many teams that have 5 contact or lower guys with 5 power playing as your first or DH? Because if it was so easy to fill, then you should only be having elite power guys play that can't play defense at that position. Like it should just that should be it. Like
This is a case of words matter. It's easier to fill.
yes,
It's not so easy to fill.
right.
Everybody I put in DH is awful.
So I've not looked, do any of our teams, to your guys, do any of you guys do this Cleveland Guardians approach where they like the rotation and they value defense and they'll put their DH is the guy's night off type thing? Because I've always looked for a guy that's my DH, right? Not a rotation for the day off.
I've
too
been
much work.
lucky. The only DH that I've had for an extended period of time was Taka, and he could only do that, and you could only play him there. And so this is the first year I've had to think about it. And I don't like rotation. And I was going to sneak this in because you can never find a center fielder with defense that hits. And I've had one. But he didn't really hit, like you said. Now he plays right for me or something. Alan Davis could catch anything anywhere. But you can never find those kinds of things. So when you look for that rotation, like I've always had outfielders that could play all 3, but never any that were good enough to like lock into one spot. Since like maybe Ortega, and Rimfire maybe, but he was in right. How's he doing for you there, Michael? I haven't looked in long.
He's doing quite well, hitting
course he is.
273,
No wonder I don't look.
347 on base, 520 slugging.
Why are you ripping out stats I've never seen him do before? Go ahead, talk about another topic while I dig.
No, he's doing quite well. But no, I hear what you say. They're difficult positions, even like center field, because I feel like sometimes, or even shortstop, you find that perfect guy. How many times have I gotten burned on this? I mean, I traded for Beetle U from San Antonio, lasted maybe half a season where all of a sudden, I don't know, his knees gave out or some BS, I don't know, OTP mechanic. And he literally dropped like 3 rankings at shortstop and was useless then. I had him shift him to first base and I ended up trading him away. Same with even like I had Liu Strider, whatever his name is, originally as a shortstop, and he's decreased at least 1 or 2 points since I've gotten him. I feel like the premium positions are premium for a couple seasons, and then they start quickly dropping off. But then you get the freaks like Nop, who I just want to just somebody please assassinate him because this guy's otherworldly. Like this guy's just, I'm gonna stay as a 10 and still hit as a 10 and still be
And
amazing.
I'm the
But
negative one. I'm the
Yeah,
negative
no,
one.
so now like on this one, I look at him all the time and I'm like, okay, didn't he go first overall? I think so.
he went second to Van
Okay,
Wandel.
still,
I
so
mean,
yeah, so both you got
can argue.
both of those. You got a first overall and a second overall as arguably the two best players on Florida, right?
Yeah.
And this is a team that's never finished last in the league, to my knowledge, right? And they've got
Florida? Ever?
Well,
Ever?
they
Forever?
may have had some down seasons, but they're one of the winningest teams in PEBA's history. And
Oh yeah, they are. Holy shit.
yeah, so those were
Excuse my language.
traded. I can't guarantee this, but my gut tells me those were traded for draft picks.
Oh yeah, there
Oh,
was
yeah.
a whole uproar around all that. Yeah.
And they got two of the arguably best players
Three.
ever to be drafted.
Let's-
They got
let's-
three.
Three. Then Michael Roberts was in that.
So again, it's either incredible luck, right? You can't say that there's skill. Okay, I will.
There's going to be
I
a
will
lot of
stop that.
painful memories with this. There's
Can
gonna-
you
for
assign
people to-
skill to those three draft picks, or is there what percentage luck, what percentage skill? Because again, I get it. There are people like Yuma has had the #1 overall pick a lot more times than Florida has. They've had the #2 pick a lot more times than Florida has, and they have never drafted players even close to those two.
I think the luck was the pool.
That was a year for sure.
That was definitely a year. It was advertised that was going to have. I remember Dylan saying it. There's generational talent available here, and yet everybody was
still
trading their
traded.
picks to
Yeah.
one person. I mean,
And
Florida
Ken
was
got all those
unloading
picks.
everything to get them.
Yeah.
So it
So
good
it
on
might
them.
so the skill aspect or the skill argument to this is that the Florida GM at the time was paying very close attention to the college and high school leagues.
This was before
Saw
it was
that.
like easily accessible in game. It's there. It was never like not there.
Because
It was there. It's just a matter of whether you actually look at it or not.
I admit that I don't look as closely as I should, but I'd say the one guy that I did look closely at was Vasquez, right? The ace. And I remember when he went, I remember looking at him going, whoa, I'd love to tank and get that dude, Because so before he was drafted, I saw that player and said, that looks like a generational, that looks like a draft pick that could set your team up for a decade.
Yep.
But I don't remember those two Florida and I always get the names butchered, but both of those hitters, Florida's #3 and #4 hitter, I don't remember seeing them in the draft and saying the same thing. Mostly because I just probably wasn't paying as close attention as I was the year that Vasquez came out.
Yeah, they've always been.
I was probably, I'm guessing I was picking 5th or 6th the year that Vasquez, and it was a possibility where when you're picking in the latter half, you see
you're not
someone
looking
like
at
that, and
those
you're like,
guys.
yeah, I'm not going to get that guy. And if we didn't have a podcast, I would forget about Amano and Rudder because I looked at those guys hard, but 4 years or what? So 4 seasons and 2 real years from now, right? I would be like, did I even consider those guys?
Well,
'cause
let's take a break to pay the bills here.
That
And
sounds good.
it's been fun seeing these breaks. So let's see what Lenny's got for us this week.
Oh, it's not what I got for you. It's what the world has brought us.
You got a young body and a strong heart. That's like a hit. I wanted you to know how I feel about you. That's why I said, be smart. Don't start drinking.
Want a drink?
Be smart.
No thanks.
Don't start
right, welcome back from commercial, everybody. Unfortunately, we lost Sean. He had to go, I don't know, do something way more important than talk to us, apparently. But we're going to continue on this train. And I think we have a good scenario here that's probably a little bit of a learning experience. I know it kind of threw us for a loop, but also it's probably got a good story. Lenny, you had somebody who was suspended for 8 games.
8 games.
Julio
8.
Navarro.
Yeah. And we'll get to the story in a second. We'll do a little choose your own adventure. Julio, believe it or not, with those whopping 2 stars, is an anchor of my bullpen. And a fun fact about him, he's also my winningest pitcher right now.
Hey, 6-5-1. Why not?
Yeah, leads, my team in wins, because that's where we're at in Bakersfield. But yeah, so he got into a brawl.
Is that what I didn't check yet? You told us not to
Yeah,
check. So
I
you
told you
just
not to
went
check
and
it.
spoiled it right from the start. You got
And
into
I
a
did-
massive
yeah,
brawl.
we should
huh?
probably just count ourselves in again and do it. You just cut a whole segment out. Well,
Who did he get into a brawl with?
he got
Let's,
into a
and let's
brawl.
face it, he's a pitcher.
He's a
He
pitcher.
hit someone.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a brawl. Now, what we're going to have to do is decide why he did what he did. And I'll wing that. That'll be the fun part. He got into a fight with Canseco, not Jose, but what's his nugget?
We actually do have Jose Canseco in the game.
Yeah, I know we do. Isn't it weird? I noticed that. He
I
got
had him in Winter League. Somebody wanted to trade for him when I got to the league.
Did anybody hit a home run off his head?
No. But
This is gonna derail.
well, now
something.
you're taking options away from my storyline, Scott. Gosh, I'm so glad we're not editing this out because it's really gonna put me on it.
See, we took a
Antonio
small
Canseco.
break, refreshed the drinks, and Sean's gone, and
Yeah,
now it's like
see,
derailed so
Sean's
quickly.
gone. We're 2 drinks deep, and now it's the Wild West, right? So yeah, Antonio Canseco from Palm Springs. And we've never liked them anyway, but he only got suspended 3, and Julio got suspended 8. Now here's where
Not
it's-
it.
No, 9.
Look
So
at the screen.
that-
9.
Wait a minute.
So 3 times. Okay, now I'm intrigued. So the
Okay.
pitcher got 3 times the suspension
Yeah.
as the hitter.
And where do you see 9?
It's
It says right there,
look-
suspended
look, right
9
there.
games after
Suspended 9
ejection
games.
from a
When I went
brawl.
to move them, it said 8. Damn it.
Well, maybe a day had passed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a day has
suspended for 8
obviously
games.
passed.
Yeah, so a day has passed. So it says in here 8 games. So 9. Even worse. I'm one more day angry, Scott.
Why are you blaming Scott? This was Palm Springs. This was
I know.
Scott's-
Well, exactly. But my anger comes out, and I just got to explain it to Scott, so everything's okay. But yeah. So how does that happen? And so my immediate, question or solution was to, drag him over to injured, and it pops up, as it says, you will put this player on the restricted list, which no one had ever heard of.
Yeah,
Found out, because I have found out on numerous occasions from our commissioner that while the game lets you do it, if I were to take the time to read the Constitution, you cannot do that.
Wait,
So immediately-
what? You can't put him on the DL during this suspension?
Yeah, that's what I went to do. I went to put him on the IL.
Okay.
And so that's when it popped up.
So
And
this
before I
is
made a
interesting because
Yeah, and got yelled at.
what you showed me is to me it looked like it was like I didn't see this language before. That typically when you get the suspension, it's more the 3 games or the 4 games, some 5
and
games.
you ride it out. But
Yeah,
this
you
was
write
gonna
it out.
affect
You're
my
not
team
going
for
to
the entire
chance
week.
losing that guy. But this made it sound like the wording will be placed on the restricted list for the duration of the suspension.
Yep.
So to me, like I thought this was a completely because I've never come across this. I never
No.
came across a long enough
No.
suspension to where I was like, okay, I'm gonna bench the guy.
And sadly, I can't share my screen because that is on a different computer, the game, until we switch to 25. So this popped up and I have permission to do it. And I still don't know what's going to be the outcome.
So my understanding from talking on the
Because I reached out
The
to the
board
board,
chat.
everybody. I said, I don't know what to do. I don't want to get
Yes.
yelled at. So I reached out to Mike to talk to Mike.
So my understanding is you will be able to, obviously he actually gets put onto the IL.
Yeah.
So he'll be on the IL for the
Mhm.
sim. He only has 1 day that he's
Yeah.
actually required to be on there. So that by the end of the, obviously after the sim, the next
I
one,
have
you
to
can
take
pull
off.
him off ahead of time so that he'll still have to serve his one final day.
Mhm.
But
But I can have somebody up.
correct. So for one sim, you can actually replace him.
Mhm.
And then he will be back, obviously, the following sim because you can bring him back. And so you won't technically lose a spot like a normal suspension that's like 3 or 4 games or 5 games. I just found this very interesting because we've never seen this before.
Yeah.
Like typically these suspensions don't go this long. Clearly, he's done something very over the top, which I don't think we've gotten into that enough. Just like what deems a 9-game suspension. He's biting ears. He's
Well, hang
slapping him in the
on, hang
face.
on.
He's doing
And
something
then
extra.
I
I'm
even
just
have a
saying.
better idea since I blew what I was going to do. So stop. But I will say this, because when I reached out and I knew it was unique when Commissioner Mike goes, "Hey, Lenny, are you free?" And I was like, I'm in trouble even for trying to
no.
find out. I go, what did I do? Did I break something? He's like,
Yeah,
no,
you
let's talk
messaged
about
me
this.
worried at first. I was like,
I always get nervous.
just checking.
I was getting nervous because I always get the, you can't do that. That you can't sign MODA for that long a time.
Oh, Lenny, every time my boss calls me at home and says, "Hey, you got a minute to talk?" My heart drops into my stomach every time. It's either I'm in trouble or somebody else is in trouble and I got to get them out of trouble.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was like dad was calling me and I was going to be done for.
And
So
I'm going to stop
here we
sharing
go.
because I'm fiddling with my screen.
So rather than guessing what he did, this is what I'm going to do. And we all know that while I can write and we had joked about
this is a CP opportunity. If
yeah,
I've
this
ever
is a
seen one.
CP opportunity. So
Where's Bob when you
we're
need
going
him
to
to
write
write it for you?
about what happened, right? So it just says instigated a bench clearing brawl. All right. So there's 3 options. And what we'll do is a vote inside Slack, and the storyline that gets the most, I'll write a whole article about it.
Fantastic.
All right. So the first one is the one that I've been pushing for, is that Julio slept with the umpire's wife. So the second one is that Julio went high and tight under the chin, and when Canseco ducked, it hit the bat and ricocheted off and hit Canseco's girlfriend above the dugout.
I like that.
I'm
one
making these
too.
up on
We
the
don't
fly.
have the netting
only
up
one-
here in 2040.
What was that?
We don't have the netting up in 2040.
It was, she had bad seats, not right back behind.
It was a default.
Okay, his
in the
mistress.
netting.
Yeah, it went through the net, right? And then the last one can be Canseco, what did he do? What did he do?
He was upset his name wasn't Jose.
Yes. No, that's hard to write about. No. They found out that they were related, but they're like third cousins. And there was, but it was like, no, that's terrible.
No, I think this is going down a good
No,
route.
okay.
I like
So they're
this
like
one.
third cousins. And, you know, like back in like the Wild West time, since we just said it's the Wild West, like the two relatives that kept the line going and how they got separated got into a gunfight. And one shot the other one, and that broke the family apart, and they didn't know now.
He needs to defend his honor. I
Yeah,
understand. This
and
one's
so-
pretty good.
And so what happened is Canseco just broke the bat and charged them out.
Did he even get a pitch thrown at him or just break it right away?
No,
just
he
charge
walked
him?
up and they were like, and here is Antonio Canseco. And he went snap and just ran. All right, so that one's terrible. Don't pick that one.
What if when he snapped the bat, cork went everywhere?
Oh.
Thanks. Now I can't use that.
Why not?
You're really limiting.
Do you want to get him suspended longer? I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's Julio's fault somehow. So apparently Julio's relative won the gun.
They found foreign substance on the ball.
There you go. That's way better than an old
Because
West shootout.
my immediate reaction is, why is the pitcher suspended 3 times as much as the hitter? And it's not a starter, because they
No,
do
oh,
this.
no, let's be realistic now. Either he went like at him, like up and in, like into the ear, or forward stuff. But there was an altercation. So like the pine tar incident, right? He loses his mind.
I think
I-
we need
Yeah,
to
you
start
should go with
these.
the emotional angle. There's got to be emotion involved for an above average
I
suspension.
think it's the accidental fall ball, high and tight, catches the bat,
Hitting
catches the
the
girlfriend
girlfriend. I like it.
in the eye.
The
But
the netting, and there's some kind of lawsuit against
well,
the
and that's
company
it.
that put the
Julio
netting up.
smokes. Julio smokes. He flicked a cigarette before the game, hit the netting right
Oh
in
my
front.
God.
And that's where the ball went. Okay, guys, we're done talking about this.
All right, all
This
right.
is
But
no, this
so that's our options. So it's Bakersfield to whoop his ass because Julio's sleeping with his wife. There's the cigarette burnt net foul ball high and tight. That's layers. And the Old West geological shootout. Please don't pick that one because I don't know what to do with that.
I just want to point out, I'm going to share my screen one more time here. I just want to point out this was first pitch. First pitch. There
Oh.
was a vendetta here. You
Yeah.
need to take this was
Yeah.
first pitch. No, okay,
Family.
technically ball. I
Like the
apologize.
Hatfields and
Second
the
pitch.
McCoys,
I cannot even
the
read.
Navarros and the Canseco's.
Yeah, I can't even read this properly. This was the second pitch.
So the
This-
first pitch missed the
Oh.
strike zone.
Yep.
And I'm just saying, poor Julio, he's not dialed in yet. He's a little wild at the beginning. He needs to
plays for
settle in.
Bakersfield, but he's not dialed in any way.
It's a pure accident. I think the dude's getting railroaded.
You're right. He's not good enough to go high and tight. He was actually
Right.
we actually called it low and away.
So
He's
so
actually
here
not even a pitcher.
here's
He's
what
my
I'm
catcher.
upset about with OOTP. Look at right here. Solo home run, 96 miles per hour. We got all the information in the world here of pitch, hit, whatever. I
Mhm.
want to know, was this a 97? Was this high heat 97? I want to know where he hit him.
Do you
I
think
wanna
Julio
know
would
how
even
hard
go
he
that
hit
hard?
him.
I think the
Yeah,
hardest
we
heat
need
pitcher I
we
have
need more
for-
information.
I
That's
need-
97 high and tight. And
I
you
need
know,
full details. I mean, he's throwing 80 miles per hour here. Ground ball. Come on.
yeah.
Come on.
But that's Welland. Now Julio throws up he gets up there.
I want these are the types of
These are the
details I
details that
need
everybody gets to pick.
for the stories. Exactly.
All
So,
right.
all right.
You vote. You vote. All right.
Lenny will post the votes. We'll see where it
Back
ends
to
up.
three.
And there's my dog in the corner. She's
Hey.
gonna pee on the floor and really piss me off right now.
Oh, I'm waiting for mine to
There we go. Fantastic.
back. All right.
Thank you, Odie. Appreciate it.
Rookie
All right.
ball.
Moving on to the next one, because I know this is one that's a little bit closer to home for you guys. I know, Scott, you were really excited about this one, but really talking about rookie ball, talking about our minor leagues, which is something we probably don't talk enough about. We were talking about earlier, obviously we have a lot of players, as you identified, a lot of players that are probably going to be overly skilled for rookie ball this year. And that's probably something that happens every year. Honestly, I don't pay as much attention to it, but we're going to have an influx of a lot of players that are probably overskilled for rookie league. We're going to have an exciting rookie league this year. What is your take on it, Scott?
So yeah, I was looking, and I've got some draft picks that are 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds that are heading to rookie league. I spent the whole second day just filling out my roster, right? That, Lenny mentioned about creating a list that would last throughout the whole draft. And I had a 385 player list that lasted both days,
Fantastic.
which is a little remarkable, but I went sheer best player I could find day one. Now, granted, I traded away my 4th, 5th, and 6th rounder, so I had a big gap there. So on day 2, I still had maybe a dozen players left that I had put on the list for scouting and my scout and my personal scouting reasons, but and I think I got at least one or two players from that list. But then it was all about, hey, I've got some openings on my rookie league. I need to draft 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. So I did not draft a single player after the seventh round, maybe eighth round, that was not a high schooler. So I just eliminated all, in Stats Lab, I just put high schoolers in there, and like, I need a catcher. I need two outfielders. I need a utility infielder. I need a shortstop. I just filled in the role for rookie league. Having
would be
said
very
that,
proud of you.
Yeah.
I know that I feel like I'm gonna get annihilated this year in rookie league because
Who's your minor league? Who's your rookie league team?
I am the it's
Wow.
no, it's Australia. I gotta look at them again. IBC, right?
Yes. And
I'm
I should make this easier by just looking you up and then defaulting to here we go.
I mean,
I'm
I
gonna
could
call it
forget
out
mine
here.
if I wanted. So it's the best name ever.
so I'm the
Brisbane. Come on.
Stevedores.
Stevedores.
Yeah. So I picked my rookie league based on I found a logo I liked and I just designed it around them.
I will say, while we're talking about logos, really quick, I'm going to interject.
I stole that.
logo. I was considering a very slight alteration for, I forget who was asking me to make a logo at the time. I was looking at this exact inspiration. So just interesting.
So I got this one after watching that Mark Wahlberg movie where he does some kind of, he's like a tanker ship, guy who's smuggling stuff from foreign countries. I loved it. It was a drama, but it was really interesting to me. And we decided to do this sometime after that. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. But anyway, I've got a couple of guys that I drafted with talent that are 18, but I just tried to fill in what I needed to fill. The problem is, as we mentioned earlier in the draft portion, there are a lot of really developed 18 and 19-year-olds that came out of this draft. And not just in the first round. I was looking, there are some significantly developed players who are going to be standouts compared to people that were drafted last year, the year before, or the year before. So I expect to get my clock clean. Having said that, I did look into some stats on the rookie league.
Give it to me.
Oh, is this the Statsman segment?
It is.
Are we,
Yes.
are we
Wait,
switching
the logo.
directly
Do the
into
logo.
Statsman?
Well, I've got
They're
stats on the
molding
top.
together.
I've got stats
Rookie
on the top.
league and Statsman, man.
I've got stats on the top 5 prospects that were drafted in the amateur draft. And I thought about doing a big segment on that, but we've been going long. So I'm
Give me
going
the
to
names. I'll pull them up.
look,
For you.
we're going to go into this. The rookie league is not been around that long, right? PEBA's been around, I don't know, 38 seasons. I got it written down somewhere here. We're just shy of 40 seasons, right? But the rookie league is 10 seasons old. We are entering our 11th rookie league season. There have been 6 champions. And there have been 3 people who have won. There have been 6 champions of the rookie league. Aruba won it 3 times. Aurora won it twice.
Who's Aruba? Who owns Aruba?
West Virginia. So West Virginia has won 3 out of 10 rookie league championships. That's not bad, right?
That's not bad.
I interject? It's because
And again, I don't know how they did it. Like, I made the playoffs once in rookie league. Once. I'm like the worst rookie league guy in, I bet you might be hard pressed to find somebody who's been to the playoffs fewer times than Reno in the rookie league.
that is Greg's philosophy. And I actually got that from him. He loves the minors. And that's why I was losing my mind over the Cold Bay 11 last year, because I haven't thought about a PEBA championship ever, and that's my short A. But rookie league, I love for this exact reason. But I'm not surprised that Greg has won 3 out of 10. because he builds the minors, and whoever happens to make it to PEBA makes it to PEBA.
Yeah, you look, you don't win 3 out of 10 championships
Yeah.
on accident.
On accident. He's trying to win them. He
Yeah.
loves
No,
winning.
he's putting the effort in to
Yep.
win that league, and I give him credit for it. And I didn't know this before I looked into it. I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa,
Hey, that's
West
CP
Virginia.
right there.
Yeah, what and look, Aurora, not to take anything away from West Virginia, 3 is better than 2, right? But Aurora is not exactly sleeping behind the wheel when it comes to rookie league either.
Yeah.
Sample size, big deal, right? You can win it once on accident.
Yep.
Hell, I think I probably made the playoffs on accident, but there's a reason why I have not won the rookie league championship. Is I don't think I've mastered what it takes to win this league.
Aurora's got the mystique. If I remember correctly, this is Aurora's team.
Yeah, I think so. So I was looking at some of the record boards, the leaderboards, right?
And
So-
before you go for it, I just wanted, because we're talking logos, I shout out to Mike for his Kaba Set Duba logo, because I know he just put this together this past season. So shout out to Mike.
Yeah, Michael, I'm a big logo fan. I mean,
I love
I love logos.
I know the one time I was on your podcast, we were talking logos.
I love logos. Like you
Yes.
cannot understand how much I love logos.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I'm terrible at, I'm a fireman, paramedic, right? My computer skills are maybe 12-year-old level. When my kids got to the age 13, they blew past me on computer skills. So, but I've tinkered with logos. I've made some myself. I've posted some back in the day.
Reno is still one of my favorites.
Yep.
Good one.
I love my logo, but I did not design it. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I think uniforms and logos might be underrated in this league, because I think it makes a big difference in my experience, my personal enjoyment of the game.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Having
I
said
thought you were talking about on the field. I was like, man, if I need to start worrying about my logo now, and that's what I've been missing the entire time.
Look, I just think it adds a level
I love it.
of
I think it's
enjoyment.
important.
Yeah. Look, I don't win because of my logo, right?
Hey, they had like 10 wins. Come on, good logos.
I would
Come on,
like
right
to
there.
if I'm losing because of my logo.
All right, looking at the leaderboard, I
right.
found this an interesting stat. So the single season home run record is held by a first baseman, Jean-Michel Clement, with 57 home runs. And remember, they play 90 games in rookie league. The dude homered 57 times. Okay. That was in 2037.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
73 games too. He missed some games.
Yeah. No, but then I looked at the number of 50 home run games, and this one might surprise you guys. So there have been a lot of 50 home run games. There have been 7 50 home run seasons out of the 10 in rookie league.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Only 3 times someone did not homer 50 times. You put that in perspective. PEBA has 32. Okay, I wrote it down. I misspoke earlier. PEBA has 32 seasons. We've got 14 PEBA players who've hit 50 or more home runs.
And a lot of them are the same ones. Like,
yeah. Now, it ain't Steve Boyer. I want to make that one clear. The home run tied. He's got a tie. But
hey, Joe Riley missed it by 1. I'm just
You know what? Joe Riley ain't gonna get anywhere near it this year.
I love it, Michael.
Don't mention that man's
Say
name
Joe Riley
on this
4 more
podcast.
times to make Lenny take his hat off and start eating it.
Yeah. Joe freaking Riley. I didn't even mean to pick him up.
All right. So
it got me Pablo Ortiz. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
So-
I got Pablo Ortiz, who's doing great. And so is Rimfire. Continue, Statsman.
So Jean-Michel Clement, the leader for the rookie league with 57 home runs in 2037, was a 4th round pick by Charleston. He's currently in AA. Doesn't look to me like a guy that is going to be a superstar, but hey, that power, right? Now, you guys probably, you can agree or disagree with me, but the power looks great, right? we would kind of like the contact to be a little higher. Look, doubles look great. So this is a guy who's not going to make a lot of contact, but when he does, it's going to be a double or a homer.
Yeah.
And I didn't see his speed, but I'm guessing his speed's not triples.
He can walk
Yeah,
to first
he's not
base.
hitting triples. Okay. So this dude's hitting doubles and homers a lot, but he's not getting a lot of hits and he's striking out a shit ton. Having said that, when I see a 8-9 power, I would like to see a 6-7 contact, right? I could live with a 2 avoid Ks. I don't love it, but
I can live with a 5 contact. You take the kind of just the risk, that the dice roll there, and hope he's going to have one season where he's going to be magical and hit 50 plus home runs and bat like 280, and then he's going to have another season where he's going to bat like 210. You're going to want to Lenny's point, eat your hat. But
I have that guy. He's on my team right now. It's Romano. Did the same thing. Then he hit 47 or something like that in 1 year when I kept moving him up. And then he hit 25 in his like rookie year. And now I don't even know what to do with him. I mean, he's there. Anybody wants him.
Yeah, I would say, look, I've seen a lot of, being a Cleveland Indians / Guardians fan, I've seen guys like, Jim Tomei, if you guys remember him.
Oh, yeah.
That dude could walk 100 times in a season and he could strike out 100 times in a season.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a clearly productive player. So the strikeouts don't scare me.
Yeah. This guy's more like Rob Deere.
Yeah, but if that dude had a 5, like to Michael's point, if this guy had a 5 or a 6 contact, and you keep his, I think his eye was 7, and his eye 7 avoid case 2, right, for his potential. I can live with that ratio of avoid Ks to eye. It's just, and I love the power. I love the doubles. It's just the contact. I'll admit I'm a little bit of a biased guy, which is why the Cleveland Indians sent me don't ask me why, but they sent me a questionnaire one time a couple years ago. Who's the player that excites you the most? And I said, Stephen Kwan. Stephen Kwan is just a phenomenal baseball player to me. If I see him in this game, I'm going to do everything I can to get him.
Why are they pining for your opinion, Scott? Come on.
I'm not going to divulge the reason for that, but I was sent the questionnaire, and it's because his high contact and low strikeout rate, right? This guy he gets on base, and I love that. Now, granted, I'll take a power hitter that's a little better than a Kwan, but I'll sacrifice a significant power number for high contact, low strikeout, and good eye. I want him to get on base. You give me a 360, 370, 380 on base percentage with even average potential on power, on slugging percentage, and I'll take it every day of the week.
You're moneyballing it. Just get on base. Only good things happen when you get on base. So,
all right. So 2 things. Jean-Michel Clement. He's clearly doesn't have the on base percentage you want. He's batting. He's got a 282 right now. He's as you pointed out, striking out way more than he probably needed to.
And I think it's the 4-2 or the 4-1. It's the contact avoid Ks ratio that downgrades. Look, his middle numbers, right? The doubles, the power and the walks are good, right? We like the pretty middle. It's just the edges on our screen that just caused me to go, I don't know how this guy's going to perform.
Take a look at 25. 25, even worse.
Yeah,
contact
even worse.
So that 230 and less is looking a little bit more believable.
Does the next version of this game reflect Scott Maynard's head version that contact, batting average for balls in play, and avoid contact are more important, right? If these were flipped, you flip that stuff on the bottom and you give a green, blue, green on the top and an orange, yellow, orange on the bottom, does that player become a more likable player to that version? I don't know the answer to this question, but for me, he becomes a more valuable player if you flip those two.
Yeah.
I've
It's
always preferred,
individual.
I'm more of a contact. I mean, this is strange coming from me as I have probably the highest home runs in the IL right now, as I'm very home run heavy, but I still
What a
prefer,
problem.
yeah. Thank you, Lenny. You've drastically helped me in this department.
Nothing's for free, Mike. Nothing's for free.
Oh, don't worry. My pitching absolutely sucks, and I am actively bothering people to try to find pitching. But
Don't bother me. Thor's
you got
lost.
some guy. Hey, I got high draft picks. I heard next year's draft is really good.
Mhm.
But anyway,
I'm already
yeah.
gonna be up there. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I value contact. If I could, I would totally go the route of Mike and Aurora. Just, a million cuts or whatever the saying is, from a million hits or cuts by a million hits or whatever, and first base hits or whatever. Yeah, that's the route I would go. I put more power and more emphasis on trying to get on base than home run. I don't know how he lasted so long with Joe Riley. He had such an amazing season. He was so anti-prototypical of the type of guy I would go for with that
Yeah.
lower contact. So
Awesome.
I'm just gonna keep
but
rubbing it
Michael,
in.
so sometimes it's important to just mix it up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm the same way, but every once in a while, I'll look at some players and see someone that intrigues me and go, he's outside of my comfort zone, but in a good way. I want to add him to the mix because, I'm this fan of the weave thing, where if everything's going in the same direction, it's fine. But if you start to intertwine the directions, it becomes stronger. This, composite mentality where it says, if you start to mix in some different philosophies to yours that are polar opposite, but good, you can add strength. You can add dimensions to your strategy and make it better.
Yeah. Like,
am I
no,
crazy?
you're right. You're right. Because when you add a high price free agent, you're expecting to weave the strength.
Oh my God.
And I was like, this is going to be, the beginning of how we move forward, because he's going to come in and show them how to do it. Now, actually, back to
Lenny,
Hang
you
on.
are jumping the gun. You're
He's going to be
not
fine.
ready.
Enough about Joe Riley.
You sure? Because I mean, he's on the screen right now.
I'll be done in the second.
Batting
When I'm
199.
editing, I'll have a whole side piece on him, and I'll write an article about his assassination.
Joe Riley's script has not been fully written.
I know.
It's early. It's early. Come on,
But
Scott. Get positive for us, Scott. Come on.
I actually have a question for you.
Okay.
How much, now you've already said, Scott, that you don't really, and Mike, maybe you haven't. Like, for me, the reason that I wanted to talk about rookie ball is when the wheels fell off for Bakersfield is when I started to move my rookie ball coaches up because they were doing so well. And I haven't seen a damn good thing happen with a prospect. We were talking, making fun of this offline. Offline, I'm like this too. Everything started to go wrong. And that's why I've started to put a little bit more into this and into my coaches, because I knew the coaches was my next step. I said that on my first podcast with y'all. But when I started to move those coaches, and everything then would go from 4-star, 5-star, and all the amazing things happening in rookie ball to, I can't keep someone up there other than Carlos Gomez. I don't know. And he hasn't done crap. I have people having huge years and everything falls off the cliff. So I think, for me, and why I'm rebuilding my minors from rookie ball up, and that, he is my number 1 rated prospect. He is, I think he's at least in the top 15 for sure. And he hasn't hit crap. And that star will not drop. His potential will not drop. My farm system has us 6th, and it's him leading the way. And yet we can't get anybody to AAA with those stars. Flores was a fluke. All of a sudden I woke up one day and he had he was ready to rock, and he's killing it.
So I will say that back to some of the earlier discussions about this year's draft, I think, again, we're only going off of OSA here because we don't want to,
I'm
have,
sure I've shared my ratings as
yeah, we don't like, I've told my ratings, I'll give you my ratings
Scott
on,
does this really quick. Mike,
on a-
pull up Ito. Pull up Ito. I'm on the Futakana.
which one?
My center fielder. While Scott says this, because I want to show you to see the drop. And
Look-
it's not here in OSA, but it's
That's-
happening with my scout. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Scott.
I'll show the scout. That's fine. Look at that.
Yeah.
3.5
I-
down to
I-
3.
but
9 to
here-
7.
but yeah, here's a 19-year-old at 1.5 stars, right? So we've got a lot of PEBA players at 2.5 playing in the major league for our team. So this guy is 19 years old and 159 days. I'm old, my eyes. And he's at 1 star away from PEBA level, right?
Mhm.
So I look at this as a positive. He's a
Maybe
3.
I'm just not moving him up fast enough. Is that where I'm missing the strategy? He's
No,
ready to be
but-
higher.
So I do believe in I'm willing to say I'm wrong on this. I have no insider,
Yeah.
Marcus has not called me and told me, hey, this is what we're doing. I have, I've seen very little behind the scenes. I did a little bit of solo league, statistical analysis where you do control substances where you say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make everybody an average and I'm going to take one team and I'm going to change this, this, and this. I did a little bit of that, but
Mhm.
it's a lot of work. And I usually do it in the evenings when I'm bored. And
That's when I find I use controlled substances too.
Yeah.
and I end up getting,
I just say control
Mike was
substances.
thinking
I
it
kind
the
of
entire time.
I
veered
get
off on a
drunk
whole nother
and I
path
lose
here.
interest and I stop.
Oh,
Or-
sorry. I had
in
to.
the-
I had to, and Mike needed it too. Go ahead. Keep going.
So I will say that there's some knowledge here, but there's a whole vast amount of I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would say that drafting a player who has high potential and high actual ratings is much better than drafting a player with high potential and low action.
Mhm.
So having said that, I choose, like, you give me a 10, 10, 10, 10, and 10 on contact, gap power, home run, and a 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And then I can choose between that guy and a 7, 7 all the way down and a 3 all the way down. I'm choosing the latter, right?
Yeah.
I'm choosing the guy who's more developed. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, there's a break-off point, like, but you showed us a guy who was pretty low versus this guy.
Yeah. Well, and
And
that
I'm
guy
seeing right now, and I'm like,
developed-
no,
Yeah.
this guy's making the major leagues.
Yeah, and
In
he'll
my
make it.
opinion,
And that's why I drafted him. We were talking
You're
about center
complaining
fielders
about a
earlier.
3.1 at rookie ball. Holy cow, man.
and even if this guy's stats are questionable, he's 19
Yeah.
and a half.
So
One,
in using
nine-
Carlos
19,
Gomez,
yeah.
and this is really good. And going back to Carlos Gomez, he was found. My scout found him, right?
yeah, bring up that other guy, the guy, because that guy, I go,
Yeah.
I feel good, but
He's still got a 1 in
Yeah,
contact.
he's
out
got a
of
long way to
10?
go.
Yeah, he's got. So what I want with this guy, Lenny, is
Hmm.
a work ethic and maybe an adaptability, right?
He's got no personality at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. He can sit in the corner like remember shoeless Joe Jackson was like would stare at a freaking candle, right? I don't care about personality. I want work ethic.
Yeah.
I want a guy who's give me a Rain Man from, give me a Rain Man kind of spectrum guy who will hit the ball and dedicate himself
Yeah.
every day of the week with a work ethic, right? That's what I care about. You give me this guy with a high work ethic, I draft him number 1
Mhm.
overall.
Yeah.
Now,
Eno will make it. It's really unique how I've just seen so many. Jason Bentley now too, who is another high guy in my short A. That is, supposed to be the shit. And he's done better stat wise, but I still am like, I would love to see him move up way faster. And again, that's my coaches, and I know that's a weak spot.
yeah, so I will tell you this. So
I've been moving him around. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I was gonna say where you got Bentley.
Bentley, I think I just moved him back. I think he's probably on single A because I tried and it didn't work, and I just moved him down. So I'm looking at my latest export.
So back to
Okay.
the coaches thing. I like this guy.
Well, good. I'm glad because
I like
right now I like him too. Maybe he could do something sometime soon.
Well, compared
no,
to A ball, he's a little
the
unprepared.
contact's low, but he's 20 years old. I mean, my goodness, if this guy was in the draft at 20,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
we would Mike and I would he would be the number 1.
Temper that a little bit. I'm looking at short season A. Let's look at PEBA. Still very exciting. 5-star guy. Still very exciting. But short season A, obviously, this is
Yeah, he's gonna rake.
Yeah, you got to discount each
Yeah.
time you go down a level, but
Yeah.
still, you put him at AAA, Mike.
this is how you win those minor leagues. So you start looking at these other ratings.
A 20-year-old who could do that at AAA.
That's a lot of damage. Contact's not there, but he can do damage.
No, but we were looking at another guy earlier that I was bitching about because his contact was 4, right?
You gotta calm down, Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Lenny. You're right. I am too pessimistic.
No, you're supposed to be our positive guy. Come
Oh,
on.
I am the optimist.
You are the optimist, and I love it.
So, having said that, every person that we have pulled up from your minor leagues, I love, right? The question
trade
is,
him?
I'll trade for him. The question is for draft picks. I don't like trading prospects. Everybody knows in this league, Scott Maynard does not like trading draft picks or does not like trading prospects. He loves trading draft picks because I don't get attachment to the prospect or the draft pick. I don't know the guy. You're asking me to trade a guy I've never met, never looked at, have no attachment to.
Yeah.
You can
I'm the
have
same
it.
way.
But when you start asking me for this player and that player, I'll never forget. You know who was recently the most sought after cold call player on my major league team is Griff Aspinwall. I think I got something like 7 or 8 people out of the blue saying, can I have Griff Aspinwall? Hey, what would it take to get Griff Aspinwall? Hey, you interested in trading Griff Aspinwall? And every one of them, I'm
I'm
like,
interested in Joe Riley. I'll
Was-
second
I
base.
have to ask Scott.
I'm
Was
not-
this before we talked about him on the podcast or after we talked about
before he was in,
Okay.
I think the first request was he might have been in international league. This is not a draft pick. He might not have ever hit a baseball in this game.
32? That's some time ago, though. Holy cow.
I swear to you guys, I liked him, but I immediately said, okay, I think I hot listed him because 3 people cold called me about him before he ever had a stat and said, okay, I obviously got him for, I don't remember if I can't remember if he was one of those automatic things back.
He was an automatic, yeah.
Yeah.
Signed minor league contract out of Aruba.
Yeah,
Straight to Reno. Just
right,
the
so-
magic man here with an 8.55 contact power eye to start out.
So nothing on my part, right? It just happened without anything
Just
to
fell
do with
into
me.
your lap, and I'm very jealous, Scott.
But those,
Very, very
I will
jealous.
admit, those potentials were not there, but they were not too far off. He was probably a 3-star guy. Look at the earliest.
But
Three
that
and a-
never happens to me.
3.5. Look at how how long he was a 9
Yeah.
contact.
and people kept Mike.
Jesus,
people kept
man.
calling for him. They kept saying,
This is like
"Hey,
Don
hey,"
Washington all over again.
to the
Stop
point
just
where
bragging, man. I'm just
Michael, I wrote a note on a piece of paper. I said, Griff Aspinwall, everybody wants some. And I had the Van Halen theme. Dun, everybody wants some. And I'm like, okay, so when people would, and I think I might have had 2 actual deals that were going like went anywhere other than, hey, I want them. And the fact that he was so sought after made me go, yeah, okay. His price went up. There was every time somebody asked about him, and Michael, you asked about him, right?
I did not. No, surprisingly, I did not at
Yeah.
this point.
Every time so usually I will admit that,
I've gone after your shortstop a couple of times, I'll admit.
yeah, I have a psychological thing that goes on where it says, if we've got a relationship, I'm at least 50-60% more likely to trade with you than if you're calling me and I've never talked to you before.
Oh, I completely understand. Yeah.
Oh, that's how it works in real life too.
Yeah, we can go into trade discussions all day.
Yeah, if we've got a relationship and it's been developed and we've talked about, we kicked the tires on some stuff and it didn't go through, but we still have a relationship.
It's better that
Then-
it doesn't go through sometimes.
Yeah,
'Cause at least you've talked through it.
The next one, as long as I don't have a sour taste in my mouth, the next one might go through.
To wrap it up on Aspinwall, I mean, look, this is what you want to see as a scout. I mean,
Yep.
nothing but green, positive, 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 all the
Moving
way. I mean, he's
No,
24
he
years
started
old.
good and
Yeah.
he just got better and better
Yeah.
and better. But the weird thing was other people noticed.
Oh,
right?
of course, yeah.
I was getting multiple offers on this guy from multiple teams, and I'm like,
Look at it.
and
Prime utility guy can play pretty much anywhere.
they put him on my radar.
Captain, come on, Scott. This guy's an all-star in the making.
But
It's
I'm
gonna
telling you,
make
Michael,
Lenny jealous. Look at him sitting there cross-armed, just really upset right now. He does not have Griff Aspinwall.
if this
Oh,
guy
I got
was,
Joe Riley.
if he was not sought after like he was, I'm not saying I would have dumped him. I'm just saying he wouldn't have moved up my radar as fast as he did because other teams were asking me about him. So remember that. You start asking about some guy, he might be the first time you ask about him to that guy. He might be the second or the third, but eventually that guy is going to be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know, I think he looks good, but everybody else thinks he looks even better than I think he looks. I'm hanging on to him.
Yeah, I that's how I found out about Flores within my own system. People started asking about him, and I didn't. He doesn't even look like this. So, and I didn't get that many offers, but I was like, oh,
Oh, come
actually,
on.
somebody good.
Flores
coming
is exciting. What do you if you want to
Oh,
trade
yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's good.
he's
Lenny,
he's lights out.
No,
Lenny,
that's a good
if
deal.
you want to trade him, I'm just saying,
I
like
know.
these are the guys
yeah.
you covet
You know what?
and you don't
I'll
give up.
package him and Riley.
Hey, I will
You can
take the
take
negative.
25 million off my freaking plate.
I
I
feel
just
like
need
I want
your
to look him up
apartment.
on my look.
I
That
need your apartment in
dude,
real life, and I
that
need
dude
your.
looks awesome.
He
Yeah.
is awesome.
Flores is looking nice. You got nothing to complain with. And I'm gonna do the boring thing, a time check, because we're at
Oh
pretty
no, we're way
extensive
over.
here. Yeah,
All
we're,
right.
we're way over. This
Let's
is
wrap
gonna
it
make
up.
your life very difficult, Lenny. So
Oh yeah.
do we want to wrap it up at this point?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
let's wrap
All
it
right.
up.
Let's wrap it up, guys. It's been an exciting episode 3 of PEBAheads with Scott, Lenny, myself, and Sean, who ditched us early because life's more important. But look forward to episode 4. A couple reminders, obviously, the Rookie Ball League, as we were talking about, that will be starting up. I think it's going to be a Saturday sim, and I'm sure Mike will correct me if I'm wrong after listening in, but Saturday sim is going to be the actual play. This Wednesday sim, the special shim. We'll just call it a shim. The sim after the draft.
Killing it.
See, Lenny, this is 2 drinks in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big,
why we
two
have-
big drinks in.
Yeah.
When you drink during segment 1, this is how we don't stick the landing.
Oh,
This is
I'm
it.
buzzing. I'm buzzing.
ramble on. I could talk for another hour plus.
I
Until my
stopped
wife
because I was
walks into
angry.
that door, I can keep rambling on. But
I'll ramble, but I think we might all be embarrassed by what happens in the next hour.
no, it's okay. I would probably go make another, and I would just be slouched over my chair, but it's fine. No, this is a good way to end it. I think look forward to episode 4. I don't know quite yet if we're going to have an interview. We'll talk about it this week. If Lenny's pointing out we're going to be drinking more, that's just typical.
Mhm.
Gotta enjoy PEBA and out of the park. So thank you guys. We'll talk next time.